Do you want to have an amazing life? This is my Tuesday live stream that generally goes as long as the questions do. The beginning of the video gives you a chance to get your questions in the comments because my goal is to answer them. If it's the first time to my channel, my name is Dion. I reached financial freedom by investing in buy and hold real estate. There are many ways to reach financial freedom. That's just the one that I chose. I've been retired for about 2 years. I started investing when I was 40, and it took a decade to make work optional. So what I talk about is how to retire early, how to invest. This video is going to be a little different with the intro, and it's just something about my life that I want to share that might make yours better. And it's really an acronym that gives me a way of thinking that changes how I look at almost every decision I make. Because there are things in life we control, and there are things that we don't. And when we have that control, this thought can change the way your life goes. Part of it goes to a thought experiment with what we think about, we find. People understand that. And there's psychology studies done on what we try not to think about, we find. And then the way social media works is amplifying this problem for people. So my acronym that has basically given me an amazing life, and I'm hoping it does something like that for you, it's just API, just those letters. When you understand API, it might give you a new way of looking at almost every situation that you're in, and it might make every decision you make easier. So when I talk about what we look for, we find, and they say this on BiggerPockets a lot in the earlier episodes. It's if you want to find a way, you will, and if you want to find an excuse, you will. Right? If you say you're right or if you say you're wrong, you're right both ways. Or if you say you can, or if you say you can't, you're right both ways. And then you see the examples of don't think of a blue car. Don't think of a lemon, right? All those psychology studies that show you can't think of a negative. You can't not think of something. And then when somebody says the word lemon or blue car and says, don't think about it for the next couple of days, what are you going to do? You're going to see blue cars, and you're going to recognize lemons on signs, and you're going to see them in advertisements, and you're going to see them in the background in shows. You're just going to see the things you're trying not to think about. It's impossible not to think about it. So here's how our minds work now with social media. This is kind of the change that's amplified this effect. When you're scrolling on your phone, when you take your phone and you start scrolling, your intent might be to entertain yourself. It might be to see if there's something you can laugh at. It might be to educate yourself on a topic. If you are searching for certain things, you're hoping that if you search financial freedom, you're going to see videos on it. If you search for retiring early, you're going to see videos on it. If you search for real estate investing or stock investing or whatever your thing is, you're going to see videos on it. But your phone is watching you, right? We all know our phone is listening to you. You say something like talk about mattresses, and you're going to get mattress advertisements for the next 3 days. So pick up your boss's phone and just say leadership skills to it over and over until it starts to show them those. What I want you to do is think about what your phone is doing. Your phone is trying to keep you on the platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Your phone is studying you to figure out what will keep you on that platform. They each have an algorithm, and you don't control it. No matter how many times you search a subject, that's not what your phone's going to show you. That's not what your computer's going to show you. Your phone is watching you when you're scrolling, when you are doom scrolling until 3 o'clock in the morning. And let's say you want to watch financial freedom, real estate investing, life betterment videos. And you're scrolling and you see somebody dancing, right? It's where Vine really became big before it was shut down. But you see someone dancing, you don't want to watch dancing videos, but it's got a song you like. And it's a quick movement, which catches your eye. So for half a second, you hesitate in your scroll. Your brain, your conscious brain says, that's not why we're here. So you continue to scroll. But your phone saw that hesitation. It doesn't interpret the way you think it does. It interprets it as, that's actually what you're there to see. But that one didn't get you enough. So what are the next few reels going to be? what you slowed down for. So we kind of understand that now with social media, that what the device or the platform thinks you want to see is what it's going to show you. If you do search for enough things, you should start to see those things show up in your feed. But what do you actually watch? It's going to show you more of that. So there are people who watch a Crash Bro video so you can get both sides of the story. Stocks are going to crash. It's the end of the world. And you invest in stocks. So you want to know what could be the next reason that they've been calling out for. And they're right. There are cycles and there are times when it goes down. And if you dollar cost average, it really doesn't matter. If you're going to retire on it and you have a buckets method like Joe Kuhn talks about, you're not going to care about those crashes. You're going to see them as a way that dollar cost averaging works out in your favor because you're buying things that take less currency to do it. If you're watching the crash videos on real estate, fear sells, right? A video that I'll put out on how to choose tenants will get 1,000 views. How to screen your tenants will get 1,000 views. Why tenants are going to trash your property and you should never own a real estate at all in your entire life would get hundreds of thousands of views because fear sells. So when you watch crash videos, you sneakily in your feed get more negative biased feed videos in your what you're going to be watching. What you think about, you find. What you try not to think about, you find. So there's some things that I've said pretty much most of my life that irritate my friends and family that are close to me. And you ever hear that thing where you say blink twice if you're in danger? If I am ever unalived with suspicious circumstances, Adam took me out. Adam is going to be the guy who takes me out. And it's not because I say he has the personality of a pregnant yak on methadone. He knows that and he doesn't care because he does. It's because of how I live my life with this acronym, API. I say it in different ways, but it really comes down to the thought process of API. Here's a couple of examples. What we think about, we find. What we try not to think about, we find. There are people who have a negative outlook on almost every aspect of life. So what do you think they find? They'll say they're doing things to try to avoid negativity, but emotions are like animals. They want to live, they want to breathe, they want to grow. And depression wants to feed itself. Anger wants to feed itself. I can tell I've been in therapy, but so does positive emotions. If I'm with one of my friends and we're going somewhere, traveling, and we go to pull into a parking lot, I'll have friends say, oh, this is a really hard parking lot to pull out of. Maybe we should find a different place. Or they'll say, oh, we should park out here at the end because there won't be any parking available at the front. This is something I've done almost all my life, and it's impacted almost every way. Every decision I've made is because of this thought. I'll tell my friend, and probably this is why he takes me out, because this irritates him to no end. I'll remind him that he's with me, and everything works out for me. I'll pull into a parking lot. There'll be a spot available. It'll frustrate him. When I go to leave, there'll be an opening. It'll irritate him. So I say this often whenever I'm doing something. Everything works out for me. It just does. People say, oh, you go through a divorce. That's terrible. Remember, anytime you hear somebody going through a divorce, you congratulate them. A divorce does not mean a good marriage is ending. It means a bad one is. See how the subtle twist in the way of looking at that? The outcome isn't always positive. But if you're looking for negative, you're going to find it. And if you're looking for positive, you're going to find it. I can say I went through a divorce. So I became a single parent and got to make all of the decisions I wanted with my kids on when they got their ears pierced or their hair cut or what school they went to or where we lived. The positive outcome, because no matter what happens, there will be, right? Every silver lining has a cloud. When you look at a situation, if you think I'm going to buy stocks and you think it's gambling, you will find data to back up your theory. You will hear stories of day traders, right? And you'll hear the statistics. 90% of day traders lose money. You'll hear If you want to start and grow a business, you're going to hear the statistics of how many businesses fail in the first year, how many businesses fail in the first 5 years. If you invest in real estate, you're going to hear two different tracks that can turn you off to it. You're going to hear the first one of, well, look at 2008, there was a massive crash. There's going to be a crash, just like stocks, it can crash anytime. Then the other thing you're going to hear is even if it doesn't crash, you have to deal with tenants, toilets, and termites and look at all the negatives. If you are looking for the big, bad, scary, you're going to find it. Even if you are trying not to, because you're focusing on it, you're going to find it. What changes the game for me is the acronym API every time I'm coming up to a choice. Some people say they have good luck, some people say they have bad luck, and some people say they have weird luck. For me, I think it's weird luck because everything always works out for me. That doesn't mean it always works out good, right? Some horrible things happen. Try to remember this sentence. If nothing severe occurs in your life, whatever occurs in your life will seem severe. I have had just as many interesting things happen in my life as you have. You've done things that would you can share a story of tragedy with somebody else. You can share a story of victory with somebody else. We all have these stories, right? We're most of us are the centerpiece of our story. Some people seem to want to play extras in their own story. But if you're focusing on all the negative, you'll fear the future. And if you only focus on the negative, you're going to regret the past. And either one of those is going to cost you the present. So I don't do either one of those. What I do is I take the acronym API, which is assumed positive impact. In any situation that you can contribute control to, right? You have some element of affecting what's going on. If you approach it with the idea that no matter what the situation is, I have a friend going through an eviction. Here's the positive. You're going to get to interact with an attorney. You're going to learn how the court system works. You're going to get a bad tenant out. That's why you are having an eviction. After you remodel the place, you're going to have this expense. You're going to have the loss of rent, right? So there are all these negatives, but then look, you get to rent it out at market rents. What is the assumed positive impact in every decision that you're making? For me, it translates to everything works out for me. It just does, right? Have I been through some horrible relationships? Have I had the struggles of having teenagers? Because yuck, don't do that. It's not worth it. But everything works out. And if you have the mindset that everything works out, you will see opportunities where everybody else sees fear. I've talked in several videos about every year that I was buying a rental property, there were all these reasons why you shouldn't buy one that year, like you're hearing this year. All of the risks, all of the negativity, all of the crash coming, the recession coming, the nobody has to pay rent, the everything that can go wrong. If you're focusing on that, whether you're trying to hear it or you're trying not to hear it, you're feeding it. You're going to see it. It's what you're going to find. If you're thinking, I'm going to be alive in 5 years, I should start investing like it. 5 years from now, imagine if in 2024, I bought a rental and I've owned it for 5 years. I've had 5 years for possible refinances to better rates. I've had 5 years of rent appreciation. I've had 5 years of principal pay down, 5 years of tax benefits. It doesn't matter who's in office, right? People in office change all the time, but Congress is constantly full of people who own assets that keep making laws that benefit people who with assets. If you focus on the fear, it's all you're going to find. That doesn't mean the fear is not there, right? We mitigate the fear. We diversify our portfolio. I keep my properties more than 10 miles apart, so I'm drawing from different sources of tenants. If you're investing in stocks, right, I don't recommend being a day trader. I would do that diversified index portfolio that has 500 companies in it, not one or two that can fail, but those 500 that you keep long enough for appreciation to do its thing and compound interest to have an impact. In your life, what are the positive things that are coming out of the negatives? Because we're all going to have negative things happen in our life. But you can have an amazing life just by thinking things like, everything works out for me. It doesn't mean that you start taking stupid risks. It means that when the bad things happen that are going to happen to you, you hunt for the positive because it's there somewhere. I try not to do too many touchy-feely videos like that. Mostly it's practical, how I acquired a rental, how I get better rents, how I keep my expenses down, how I focus and continue to grow a portfolio when my friends are buying RVs and camping every weekend and having all of the fun when for 5 to 10 years, I didn't do any of that, so that for the rest of my life, I could do it every day, not just weekends. But I hope that video made you at least think. Every situation you go to, can you find the assumed positive impact? Because it's there. Now I'm going to go to the comments. Remember, the rest of this video is to answer your questions. If you are a member tonight at 6 o'clock Pacific, there is a members only meeting where we will talk about anything that you want to. We all jump on Zoom together. And the goal is to look at deals. So if you have a deal you want us to look at, great. Somebody else might have one. If nobody has one and we just want to go through, the idea is to learn the skill of looking at a deal. How do we assess the math? How do we look at the neighborhood? How do we look at the physical aspects of the property that helps limit tenant turnover or match the strategy we're trying to do? All of that through stream of consciousness on how an investor would do that. That's the purpose of the members only. It would be super boring on YouTube. So we don't do it on regular YouTube. We do it on members only where people know what they were signing up for. So howdy, everybody. Good to see you here. Lavita, Old Guy REI, Bill, John, Freedom Works, BuzzTune, Oculus, Jack. At work, just listening on this one. Nice. As one of the things I missed when I went from truck driver to law enforcement to CDL instructor. It was as a truck driver, I used to listen to podcasts and audiobooks all the time. Audiobooks when they were literally books on tape. Go to the library, check out a bunch of books, listen to them. Missed that when I changed careers. I see a membership tossed out by Wealth Building Journey to Twanville. Gifted a membership by the Wealth Building Journey. Thank you for that. If you can make it tonight, it's at 6 o'clock. It'd be great to see you there. If not, we're going to be doing another one this month. It's on a Tuesday after the live stream. That's what we're doing for the month of whatever month this is, August. JMC, howdy. Currently out the W2. Everybody working tonight. That's where the money comes from. All-nighter hider. I'm here, but not here. All right, Jared, financial firefighter. Aloha. The Riley Oak. Hello, howdy, Tiffany. Laura, good evening, everyone. Remember to hit the like button. Every time you hit the like button, an angel gets its wings. So yeah, Levita, the law of attraction or the secret is a really touchy-feely way, but for me, it's more of a sarcastic way. When life hits you with a challenge, just go, this is fine. Everything works out for me. Because remember, if you stress about the future or regret the past, you're losing the present, right? So none of that helps you. Doesn't mean don't worry about anything. Have concerns, mitigate the risks. A PE turned RE. Howdy. When young, how do you audit your network? A lot of 20-somethings aren't on the fire path. Millennial Mike is hanging out with Michael Zuber, me, and the Matt the Lumberjack landlord. Two of us are 20 years older than him. So Matt's 15 years older than him or something like that. When it comes to auditing your network, so in the one rental at a time rules, there's the 5 or 7 rules that Zuber came up with, and one of them, the last one, is audit your network, right? It doesn't mean you eliminate or cut out the people around you, right? You don't have to never talk to your friends. Like I do have a sister I've talked once since 2004. That's plenty. And I mean, she does live so far away. She's like 500 feet past my brother that I see every week. So I understand. But you can add people to your network, right? Curtis, when you go to the local Tacoma FI meetup and you meet Ray, and Ray says, hey, we're having a poker game, and you go and you hang out, you're having conversations with those kind of people, no matter what their age is. That doesn't mean you don't hang out with any of the other teachers you work with or other coaches you interact with. You still have those people around. I hang out with Adam, who's going to be the person who unalives me one day. Uh, we cannot talk finances or real estate or investing, or politics or religion at all. And we've been friends since we were both 18. That doesn't mean I get him out of my life. It just means I know that when we interact, I don't bring in religion, politics, money, finances, any of that. So that's how I would audit my network. I would add the people who are doing the thing you want to do and make sure that when possible, you're interacting with them as well as interacting with the other people that aren't focused on what you are. You might run into people who you do need to cut out of your circle. I have, I believe, about 5,000 friends on Facebook and probably a little over 5,000 people blocked on Facebook. So it's a neck and neck race. Half of those are my family members, all those cousins that in and out of jail. Well, you want to piss off my family? You call them gypsies, but it's okay. Eventually they move on. Old guy REI, howdy. Ace is up. Howdy, what is a normal rate difference between primary home loan and investment property loan? The larger the property, the smaller the gap on that, right? You buy a $300,000 house in owner occupied versus investment, you're going to usually see about a point. So like if you can get it for 5 living there, you're going to get around 6 investment. It's not exact, right? Check with lenders every time because two things kind of determine rates. First is what's the Fed rate at, right? Lenders lend on margin. So if the Fed rate says we'll give out interest, we'll give money to the banks at 5%, then they want to make a profit above that. But the second thing that impacts where rates are is lending fear. They can compress their margin or expand their margin based on fear, competition, volume, whether they're trying to do loans, whether they're trying to limit loans. So it changes all the time. If you're buying $1 million house and as an investment or a live-in, you might see it as small as a half a point difference or even a quarter point difference. So the bigger the property, the smaller the gap between owner occupied and I had this conversation earlier this morning with a friend of Michael Zuber's who is 16, and I want to say his name is Grant, but I have memory issues and I might got that wrong. I think it's right. Video's coming out on Zuber's channel soon. And I was talking about why do you get a better rate for owner occupied? And the idea is the bank is lending you money. The bank has a risk factor. Right? They could lose money by lending it to you. And one of the most accurate statements with the bank is they don't lend money to people who need it. So if you want to borrow money from the bank, you need to make sure you don't need it. It just makes your deal better. So it's easier as an investor to walk away from a rental and just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do this on purpose default. You can planned obsolescence, whatever, take it back. It's yours. I don't want it no more. Why does it keep trying to put an ad in here? Every now and then it pops up and I can catch it. It's a little harder to walk away from a property that you live in. So that's why you get a better rate. They'll compress the fear, right? The margin, the fear is less, so they can compress the margin more on where you live. Tends to be about that much. H. Let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It helps support the channel. It lets YouTube know that somebody actually likes the content. And then I'll read the comment and watch it be like a hater. H. What are your thoughts on mobile home? I am 24 years old and I'm trying to get started in real estate. Multifamily is too expensive for my income. So that's a good way to look at it. One of the other things to think of is with multifamily, you can find lenders that will consider 75% of the potential rents in your debt to income ratio. So it's sometimes easier to buy a duplex than a single family house. Here's my thoughts on mobile homes. First, I don't want to buy cheap property. I could invest in Gary, Indiana, like Millennial Mike does, which he's doing a great strategy. It fits for him because he wants a big portfolio. I want a small portfolio. The more expensive the property, the more potential for cash flow with less units. And that's my goal. It's not a big portfolio. It's the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units. My brother has 10 paid off rentals. Add again. 3 stick built, 7 mobile homes. I kept saying he had 10 mobile homes, but he doesn't. He has 7 and then stick builds. And he's doing great. He's been retired for a decade now and is just traveling and doing everything he wants. And I mean, like, it's a phenomenal life. from 10 paid off rentals, 7 of them are mobile homes. What you'll hear investors say is they don't appreciate. Bulldookey. The reason some investors say they don't appreciate is because there have been years where lenders will not lend on a mobile, and there could be years in the future where they will not lend on a mobile. Currently, because of the housing crisis, Fannie and Freddie back mortgages on mobile homes. So they appreciate just like a stick built because the lending options are there to buy a mobile home, just like a stick built. If that changes in the future and you had to sell, because remember, when there's a stock market crash, really the only people who lose are the ones who have to sell during the crash. If there's a real estate crash in 2008 to 9, 10, and 11, when prices went down, rents went up. There were investors doing better because a lot of people went through foreclosures, lost their houses, became renters, pushing up demand on rentals. More demand, limited supply, you get a price increase. So as long as you are doing something like my brother, where you are not in a situation where you have to sell, you're not counting on appreciation, mobile homes cash flow just fine. And once you have a mobile home, you might get that addiction that my brother has. They're identical. Your HVAC system, the way your electric works, your access to everything, they're kindergarten simple to work on, to repair, to maintain, versus I have a 1921 house. I have a 1939 house. Everything else is 1980 or newer. So when I go to work on a property, sometimes I'm dealing with 3 different eras of electric. You don't have that in a mobile home. So there are some positive aspects that I like. So your situation may be unique where it is great and a great strategy for you. And it may be something, if you're thinking of, I'm going to exit in 7 years and take all my proceeds and 1031 to something else in 7 years. We don't know if the lending is going to be there for mobile homes. So I wouldn't use it for that strategy. I would use it for my strategy. So if I have looked and have I made offers on a mobile, or have I just not seen good deals? The 2 deals I thought were worth pursuing were when I wasn't adding, and I sent them to my brother and a couple of other people. So I would consider it. I've considered it. So I'd have to be in buy mode and find the deal. So I would do that. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I would relook at multifamily. House hacking brings down the cost, brings down the interest rate. And if you can consider 75% of the rents, you can actually buy a fourplex and have a lower payment every month, even with some units not paying, than if you go and buy a mobile home to house hack. That's the beauty. There are so many different options. Jason, I was in members only. Howdy. I almost did that. I went to, because the way this works, you have to make Zoom. You have to link Zoom to YouTube. I almost started linking it to the members only because I put it up so people would see that it was there. Zap Spiders. Howdy. How long should you be patient with your current buy box before deciding it isn't working and need to expand or change it? Minimum 60 days. Right, you're studying your market for 60 days to learn it. So I think for those 60 days, you're figuring out that market and that asset class. I, at the end of 2022, started having a lot of money in the bank, right? I had retired. I had a lot of cash flow, and it was just piling up. And I had changed my buy box a few times because your options change every month that you're hunting and not finding something. You should be saving more, right? So your down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, money for reserves is growing, giving you different options. So I went, I need a duplex. Wait, I have enough to buy a triplex or a fourplex because the down payment was more back then. There wasn't the 5% down options that have come out since then. And then I got enough where I was like, well, I could self-fund a Burr. Right? I could buy it all cash and pay for it. I don't need hard money, no timeline. So things were changing as it grows. So as it's taking longer, you might be adjusting your buy box just because your options change. And 2022, at the beginning, I gave myself a year and I said, okay, if I don't find, because I'm ready to buy, right? There's 2 things that tell us when to buy real estate. It's not rates, it's not prices, it's not rents, it's not recession, it's not crash, it's not anything to do with actual real estate. It's 2 things. One, are you ready? Right. And ready isn't just you have the down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, and reserves. That's part of it. But the other part of are you ready is there nothing major on your life going on? Right? Birth, death, divorce, do something stupid like go on a date, like all of these things that can just blow up your life. You don't want those things going on while you're trying to focus and buy the next asset. So are you ready? Second thing is, did you find a great deal? So if you're studying your market to learn what a great deal is, and now you're looking for them and you don't find them, I gave myself that year. And then I thought, okay, if this doesn't year, and now what I had also done is I expanded my market because of remote work. So I think this is something we can do even now. Remote work changed the landscape of real estate. So about 30 minutes to an hour and a half out from the major city closest to you, where most of the employment is, remote workers can live further out. Now, I'm not talking about the complete 100% work from home that can geo arbitrage and go live in Thailand. The person who has to go to the office once or twice a week can now push out further. So rents have been pushed up significantly. The second thing is they don't want to buy, right? The remote workers might get called back to the office and they don't want to, not everybody wants to be a landlord. So they're out renting cheaper than in the city, but higher than what was rural before, which is a deal for them, but higher rents for the area. And they don't want to buy. So prices haven't pushed up as much. So I adjusted my market based on that. So I'm a little bit further out than I was before. And I was looking for a self-funded Burr. So my options had changed. My market shifted a little. And it wasn't that I wasn't finding the deal. It was like, I'm watching what's going on in real estate. That's why I make these videos, because things, 6 months is going to be a very different thing. I'll be talking about what's going on then, not what's happening now. I gave myself that year. And then I thought, if I don't find it in a year, I might actually invest out of state, which is an entirely new market. I would use Millennial Mike and piggyback on his coattails of his systems that are already in place. So maybe you have trusted boots on the ground in another market. But in the beginning, when I first started, I gave myself a year, right? So this is around 2010. I was looking for single family houses. I wanted to hack a house, buy it, live in it for at least a year, save up a down payment, buy another one, live in it for at least a year, and just cycle through that. My goal was to have maybe 5 single family houses by 10 years. And then I realized in my area, single family doesn't cash flow. It took me that whole year to realize I have not seen one deal in that year. And now it's been over a decade, still not seen one single family house that makes sense as a rental in my area. So I went to small multifamily. So it was about a year then. I gave myself a year now. So that seems to be kind of my control group. If I don't find it in a year, that tells me that this is not the market for me or my asset class. Thank you for that question. I appreciate all the questions because this is what Tuesdays are for. I make shorter videos during the week. My video coming out Thursday, which I haven't completely got articulable yet, is going to be, I think, there is more to life than work. Because I heard one of the saddest things last week, and it'll be in that video. Saddest things to me. Wealth building journey. The difference from lender to lender, but anywhere from 1 to 1.5. Yep, there you go. I run number 1% more because of rental. Dylan, howdy. Changing your buy box, something you should be very careful about. Don't relax your standards because you are tired of waiting. However, if your standards don't match your market, you may need to. Totally agree. Just or pick a new market. Olivia, you are manifesting greatness, Dion. I appreciate that. It's kind of like parenting, right? I have 2 rules with parenting. 50% of my offspring are supposed to make it to the age of 18. Nailed it. And if they're not in prison or on the pole, I think I win. That's my parenting advice. That's the worst parenting advice there is, but that's what I have for you. H, what's your thoughts on mobile home investing? And then I saw you did a super chat. Thank you for that question and the super chat. I appreciate it. Michelle, howdy. The awesome subject, Dion, manifesting, still learning, but love it. Thank you. Good deal. Freedom works because of all the years of capitalism. Our lives are so good. It stopped the Germans in World War II. And there's a complete myth out there of post-capitalism. It's never happened. We don't have a post-capitalism anything yet. But because of capitalism, our lives are good. Think of this. Go back 200 years and think of what your life is like compared to a king's life 200 years ago with your indoor plumbing, your refrigerator, your Wi-Fi. Laura, the best REI therapy session ever. Thank you for that. That's cool. Always plan intentionally. Always plan. That's a good one. I like it. And then my chat moved, which I appreciate. That means assuming positive impact. Freedom works. There you go. Mark Manson put in a good way. Ask yourself, what if this is a gift? There you go. I like it. Howdy, come on. I love it. Oculus, API, PMA. There you go. There's a Dividend Dave in the house. Sweet. What? Okay. Likes Bay. Howdy. What due diligence do you do when inheriting tenants? Good question. So there's a couple things there. Due diligence on the property, right? So purchasing it, I make sure it's not in an HOA. I make sure it's not a short sale. I make sure it's not a foreclosure. Let me know if you want to know any of those reasons. Um, I have an inspection period. I have an inspection done. So I'm looking for deal breakers. I have an appraisal, and a financing contingency. So I've got my contingencies to be able to do due diligence when I'm buying the property. I do like to meet the tenants, right? I've never seen a property before making an offer. I make offers, then I go look at the properties if I get one accepted. During inspection or during an inspection, if I have the opportunity, I will try to meet tenants politely, right? I tend to not even go in during the inspection. I want the inspection report, but I want to meet the tenants to do a soft introduction. I have found out things during an inspection. Tenant said, we didn't do a deposit, so my rent's a little higher. So next year the rent will be less. Tenant was telling this, don't know if it was true, but I did do kind of a rent comparison. That's why current leases mean nothing to me. If they're low and locked in for a year, I'll factor it into my math to see how that impacts me. But if it's high, I don't say that's what I'm going to make there, because area average rents set rents, not what somebody was paying last year. So due diligence, once you meet the tenants, you didn't get to screen their credit. You don't know where they work or what they make. You don't know their eviction history. You don't know their criminal history. You don't know anything about them. So you're inheriting tenants. And for some reason, people don't like saying it that way. Oh, another ad. I can stop it. Okay. I don't like ads. You should have YouTube Premium. I don't make any more money from YouTube Premium. I just think your life is better if you have it. It's worth it. If you spend more than 15 minutes a week on YouTube, because it has been a decade since I have watched a commercial. I made it 37 minutes. Before I needed the water that made my eyes water. So I have a strategy called the binder, like Spay. And it gets my tenants to ask me to raise the rent. And I was actually talking with Blake at BiggerPockets this morning. They just did, they're doing an interview with somebody, and she said his name. I forget his name. I should remember his name. I will look in the email. And uh, they just used the binder strategy and got like a 36% increase. So tenant asked for the rent to go up 36%. I don't do that right away, right? This is part of the due diligence. What if that tenant is somebody who gets noise complaints, calls you for super trivial things, doesn't pay their rent on time? You might not want to keep them. So my due diligence with new tenants when I meet them is, how do we interact, right? Does it seem aggressive? Do they seem threatening? Do they seem, oh, there's no nice way to say it. Maybe you have a personality clash. You'll find out in that first few interactions. Maybe when you're giving your landlord introduction letter or during the inspection. What I do is I wait 2 months to make sure they pay their rent on time. No noise complaints. They don't call me for trivial things. And in 2 months, then I'll have the binder strategy. It does a couple things. One, I'm also going to fix things. I put in my coded lock so they don't have keys anymore. I put in motion sensor LED exterior lights to improve the safety of the place. I ask the tenants if there's anything that they would fix. And then usually it's been something small, so I fix it. They now know I'm going to take care of the place. They've seen improvements happen, and I fixed things that they asked about. So at 2 months, when that binder strategy conversation happens, it goes better. So that's the due diligence I do with tenants. I don't run a credit check because I don't care. I don't ask where they work or what they make. I want to know, how do those 2 months tell me how the rest of the year is going to go? That's my due diligence. Am I missing anything? Due diligence for utilities kind of falls into the category. Call utility companies and make sure you set up a landlord policy so that if your tenants ever move out, the utilities automatically transfer into your name so that your handyman contractor or you can go there and fix things and actually have power. And if it's in the middle of winter, you won't have a deep freeze. That was a great question. Thank you. I prefer inherited tenants. That tells me generally power's on, plumbing works, right? Foundation isn't unsafe to live there. That's just some assumptions you can make before you have your inspection. So I prefer tenants in place. Bill O'Connell took back a message to make me lose sleep and wonder forever and ever what was said there. Oh no. O'Connell took back the dad joke because he gave, oh, now it's not fair. Dividend Dave gave Dividend Dave a run for his money. The membership prices have jumped. They are exactly the same. I haven't changed anything unless YouTube did. Whatever it was, whatever you text me later, Chester, and let me know what it was. I may need to go in there and like, they have not changed. Jack Stewart. I feel like you were talking to me after our last set of emails. Did you get the pictures of the campsite I sent you? I don't remember. Maybe send them again. I'll check later tonight. Send them again. I don't think I did. Or if I did, I don't remember. There you go. Bill O'Connell. Any tips for fixing up a place with the tenant still in place? Good people, but need to fix a few things. Yes. I actually almost want to make a video on this on its own, but it's just a short point. It'd be like a 3-minute video, and I tend to not do those. YouTube likes 8-minute videos. While I hate commercials, it's part of their revenue, and that's how Google makes money with YouTube. And at 8 minutes, they can put mid-rolls in there. So I try not to do too many short videos. I'm trying to get this information to more people. But let's say you want to do repairs or you have a plumbing backup, right? So there's something that makes it harder to live there. Now, if stuff is just coming out and going on the floor, you're going to pay for a hotel. But let's say you want to replace pipes, you want to upgrade pipes, and it's going to stop water from being there for a day or two. Now, they can't shower, they can't do dishes, they can't do a few things, right? So maybe here's what I've so when I had a septic system problem. This is like, I think a year ago now, replaced the whole septic system. Thank you, tenants, for paying for my septic repair. I appreciate it. I now have a better protected asset. You have a few options. You can say, how about I put you in a hotel for a week? What's that going to cost you, right? You run your math. You're setting aside 15% for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That can include cost of a hotel. So this is why the video is, because that's the normal go-to. I hear it in every video. I've never heard the solution that I came up with. And I come up with it because of the CDL school that I worked at. People say you could, reduce their rent by an amount, let them stay in a hotel and choose the one they want to. You could pay for the hotel or anything. So mine was, you couldn't shower. And that's the biggest impact to the tenant. So I go, let's take this much amount of money off of your rent for eating out because you can't cook at the house. But for the shower part, instead of saying, go stay in a hotel, I want you to be comfortable in your own place. They just need to fix the pipes, replace the thing out in the yard that has nothing to do with the inside of the house. Here's a 1-month gym membership for each member of your family for a month. Now, it'll cost a little more because an annual membership gets a discount per month. What I did is I just paid for the 1 month, and it'll probably be twice as much as a 1-month membership. So instead of $20, it'll be $40 or $50 per person. Gym has a shower. Solved the problem. Took, I think, 4 days to resolve. Tenants were happy. They got a little bit less to go out and eat. They got the gym membership for the 1 month, so they can go do that. That's my solution going forward. Now, if it is big enough, you're going to do a complete renovation, you might do the hotel. Flooring, I've worked with tenants and ask them, are you willing? First you have to ask your flooring company, can you do this in 2 days? And what's the charge? My friend that was just doing this, it was $200 to come back 2 different days. Move everything to one side of the house. Tenant's responsibility, because the tenant also wants the new flooring. Good. Flooring company does the 50% or so that they can get to. Then they plan at least a 2 or 3 day in the future return trip to do that. So you can interrupt the tenant's life doing that. But I don't just go to my tenants and go, I want to put in new flooring. It's a conversation. If you would like to live in this place with nicer flooring, here's what it's going to take. Right? Kitchen cabinets, bathroom renovation, if you only have one bathroom, might be the solution of giving them a discount to eat out. It might be the solution of the gym membership. It might be the solution of hotel room. You're not paying for it. You have to have the discipline to set aside the 15% for repairs, maintenance, and vacancies so that when something happens, like your roof goes bad and you spend $8,000, it comes out of that account. And then the account gets refilled from that percentage that you set aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. That first year, it's going to feel like you're paying for everything. I get it. You don't have the reserve. You haven't built that yet. You only have 1 or 2 rentals too. So it feels a lot more like cost to acquire prices. After you've been doing this for a few years, people get the tendency of going, I have enough cash flow that I can buy a property that's kind of break even or makes just a little bit of money. No, you want to be able to also set aside the money for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy because of things like that, so that you can happily go, let me pay for a hotel for a week because it's their money that you've been setting aside for that issue. It's not you paying for it. Lavida. The whole manifestation thing is definitely a skill. It's made me more aware of the thoughts I'm thinking while I'm thinking them. Catch the negative thoughts early. I love it. Dylan, the bank I work with just based my commercial rates off of the 5-year treasury plus 3%. So there is an order of operations to lending. And I do this every time, no matter what. No matter what the rates are at, what the Fed's at, what a lender that I love offers me. I get that information from a lender and then I hunt for my deal. Once I find a deal and go under contract, I take that lender's option, what their interest rate is, what the cost to buy down the rate is, and I share it with 3 different types of lenders, right? Not just 3 different lenders. I go to a broker, credit union, mortgage company, whatever it is, different types, because different sectors of that industry have different like waves of when they're trying to do loans, when they're trying to shorten their loans. So at some point in time, almost all credit unions just say, hey, we're not doing that right now, right? Or they're saying we need to get more loans on our books. So different types of lenders. If anybody can match it or is worse, I stay with that original lender. If anyone can beat it by, quarter of a point or more, or it costs less to buy down the rate, I take their email back to my original lender, to your person that said 5-year treasury plus 3%. And I say, here's what I've got an offer from another lender. Can you match it? They don't have to beat it to keep my business. They have to at least match it. If they can't match it, then I'm probably going to go with the other lender every time. Sounds like a lot of work. It's maybe 5 emails, maybe 6, right? You send it out to 3. If anybody responds with a better deal, that one gets sent to your lender. It's a if-then statements, right? If they can beat it, then you let them try to match it. If they can match it, then you go with it. If they can't match it, then you go back to the other lender and you say, okay, you got my business. Every time. Imagine the people who say, if you're going to have tree work done or have your deck repaired and it's going to cost you $5,000, get at least 3 estimates, who don't talk to at least 3 lenders on a hundreds of thousands of dollar commitment for 3 decades. That is ridiculous. Wealth building journey. Save up and look for a good deal in your market. Better to buy a good deal that's a little bit more expensive than a cheap deal that is so-so. Good advice. Duplex Dave. Howdy, real estate is not a get rich quick. It's get rich slowly over time. On a 16-unit fixer upper portfolio, the maintenance and capex is extremely high, but they are becoming stabilized. This is year 4. Awesome. It does take time. The way I say it is real estate is a get rich quick scheme. Understanding that 10 years is really quick is the trick. H, thank you, Dion. I repair houses through Habitat. Awesome. Joe Kuhn was doing that for a while too, a stock investor that I follow on YouTube. It's Kuhn. I don't invest in stocks, but I like his retirement stuff. He was painting houses for Habitat, I think was what he was doing. Nice. And I think I want to make sure, what are your thoughts on mobile home, house or Habitat? Thank you. And there's a super chat here from Mrs. K. Ms. K, have you ever worked with tax liens? I have not. I am super boring. There's 4 words that describe me and my portfolio. Boring and not sexy. Those are the 4 words that describe me and my portfolio. Very slow, took 10 years. Every single deal from the MLS, traditional lending, bought 1 cash towards the end because it sucks. Money piles up. You're going to have the same problem. My brother has done sheriff's step auction where you go and do that. So what might have been a tax lien. I'm not sure of the details of the one that he purchased that time that I was talking with him. So I have not done tax liens. I would educate myself on that process before I did it. I would be on YouTube University for a month or 2, binge watching hundreds of hours of content on how tax lien stuff works, the pitfalls, the success stories, the failure stories. Yes. So I would consider it. It's not my strategy. I don't know that I have anybody. I normally like it to distance. It's Millennial Mike, contacting the owners and building a relationship to acquire a massive portfolio, Cody or Christian, Zuber, all the paths to financial freedom, lumberjack landlord, how to self-manage and do your rehabs. Like if you've got things you want to work on, he's the guy you go to. Don't have a tax lien guy or girl. Nope. I'm sure it's a good strategy. It is not one that I have done. And there we go. Should I highly leverage Burr Melody? No. The less a man makes declarative statements, the less apt he is to look foolish in retrospect. But I'm going to make one. No. No. Okay. Now the nuance. I don't think very many people should start with the Burr method, period. There are too many slips twixt a cup and a lip where you're going to mess up your ARV timeline, your repair timeline, your repair cost, what's going to happen with interest rates and the amount of time. There's all these things that you have to learn when you're already learning how to do real estate, how to buy a deal, how to negotiate a deal, all the things you can do wrong. So I wouldn't start with it. So I think there's somebody here that says, yeah, Wayne says, not if it's your first. I am only doing a Burr, and I call it my last Burr because even though it created a couple $100,000, it's not worth it. I self-funded it, purchased the whole property, and then funded the repairs myself. So no leverage. Even doing that, I don't want to do it again. So absolutely not. A highly leveraged Burr has too high a likelihood of blowing up in your face. Now, the Burr strategy, and there's another, hang on, having a too many explosions moment. Subject 2. Subject 2 is a great strategy, and Burr is a great strategy when you have these two elements happening. Interest rates trending down and prices trending up. Because if a bank has a loan out at 5% and you do subject 2 and now interest rates are 3%. So if you're subject to purchasing a property that they bought in 2018 in 2020, that's exactly the math. It would have been a 5 or 6% loan on the property, but now it's 3%. Of course, the bank is going to let you subject to. They're getting 5% in a 3% interest rate environment. Now, if somebody bought it in 2020 and has that killer interest rate, and you want to do subject to, and interest rates are 5 or 6%, Lumberjack Landlord was talking about somebody who recently, that they're talking about statistically, more and more subject to due on sale clauses are hitting courts because interest rates trended up. This is what happens with the Burr. Prices trending down, or interest rates trending down, prices trending up. You start a Burr, and let's say you get your cost to repair totally wrong. Well, you wait 2 months. Interest rates came down more, prices went up more, fixes your mistake, or genius. Mess up your after repair value, wait a few months, prices were going up. Now your repair value is right. So for a decade, everybody doing the Burr method looked great. People doing subject to looked great. We are not currently in that environment. So being highly leveraged on a Burr right now is extremely risky. So great question. Sometimes there's two possible things here, Melody. It's an honest question, and you're kind of learning this. And so it's a great way to ask a question because you get a bunch of information. Like, look how many things I went over because of that one question. The other option is there are people out there that are making sure that I know what I'm talking about. Because there are people that are like, oh, Burr is great. You just rinse and repeat and it's like free money. No, this is one of the riskiest strategies that there are out there. Not sure, as long as your goal is to stay in your W-2 for a while, like an extra 20 years to fix your mistake. Oculus. Howdy. I have to have math of time conversation tomorrow with a tenant who wants to pay late. Dion Talk tips. Have I done the math of time on how to never have a rent payment late? I haven't done a standalone video to send you a link, so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. The math of time for this, math of time wraps up the concept, but it starts with this. You're going to start the conversation pointing out how you follow the laws and that the lease is there to protect them. The lease is also there to protect you. And as a favor, you are going to, I'm going to stop this ad. I saw it pop up. You're going to do a favor. Would have been messed up to put an ad just before I answer a question because you might miss the whole freaking answer. I don't know how these ads work. So as a favor to the tenant, you have the rents due this day. You have a grace period. So I'll just use hypothetically. Rents due on the 1st. It's late after the 5th. So on the 6th, it's late. You tell the tenant, as a favor, on the 6th, I'm going to serve you eviction papers. You're welcome. Sounds like a douchebag, right? Sounds mean. It's because, and you clarify this with the tenant, there are rent relief programs out there who will not even talk to you until you have those papers in your hand. So on the 6th, as a favor, I'm going to give you access to that. And since I have to do this legally with all my tenants, that's exactly how it's handled with any other tenant, no matter what the story is. I'm going to do this. Second, then you have the math of time conversation. And there is the math of time when it comes to retiring and how you can triple your life. But this is the math of time when it comes to rent. The average person, usually that is a renter, has 4 weeks, right? A little over 28 days in a month to get their rent together for next month. And you're struggling this month. Something happened in your life that made this month rough, right? So let's say we let it be a week late. This month is easier. But now for next month, you only have 3 weeks. Like you just struggled when you had over 4 weeks for this month, but you only have 3 weeks now. So the next month will be harder. I would be setting you up for failure if I let you pay your rent late. But the lease is there to protect you. Here's how late rent works. It's due on the 1st. After the 5th, it's late. So what does your lease say? Some say it's $150 late fee if it's after the 5th. Mine specifically says it's $20 per day that it's late. So if a tenant called and said, I need to pay the rent late, first, great, I understand. I'm going to do you a favor. Here's your eviction papers on the day after the grace period and explain that this is a favor because now you can go talk to rent relief programs that just wouldn't talk to you the day before that. Second, it's $20 a day. Here's the math of time. You only have 3 weeks and you had to come up with this money late. How many days late is it? Like the lease is there to protect you. I can't take the door off. I can't shut off the power. If I had to go through an eviction, an actual real one, we have to go to the court system and do it. The lease is there to protect me too. That's what these late fees are for. So knowing that, it's not illegal to pay your rent late. It's in the lease. It's this late fee for this many days. Choice is yours. Having that conversation, I have not had a tenant pay their rent late in 10 years. A decade, not one late or missing rent payment, even during 2020. Doesn't mean it's always going to work. Sometimes tenants do. Now, if the tenant comes to you and you can absolutely tell they're falling apart and they just lost a sibling or a parent or something, and you'd be like, okay, hang on, wait. How late do you want to be? Let's work this out. Let's do it through email so we can be clear. I understand you're going to be human about this, but usually that's not the case. The majority of times when a tenant wants to pay late, it's because they spent money on something, and now they're looking at, I have these options. If I don't pay my car payment, it's going to hit my credit report. They could repossess my car. Now I don't go to work. If I don't pay my cell phone, they'll shut it off, and they'll miss out on all the doom scrolling. If I don't pay for the internet, I won't be able to stream when I'm at home. Maybe I don't eat out, but my friends are going out and I don't want to miss out on that. But I have this landlord. Maybe I can talk him into letting me do this a week late. And I haven't thought as a tenant that shortens the amount of time for the next month. That's been my history several times. Sometimes the same tenant a couple times a year will reach out. Hey, I'm going to need to pay the rent late this week or this month. Sure, no problem. Well, let's go through how this works. And then they choose not to. Let me know how it goes, Oculus. I'm curious. Dan, howdy. Can you describe the difference between a Class B and C home that you like to invest in? I specifically target Class C homes. Think one is a B minus for a few reasons. So there's Brandon Turner has a really good write-up if you Google BiggerPockets or Brandon Turner classes of properties, A, B, C, or D. D is a war zone, right? Cops can't go there alone. I don't want to own there. I don't feel comfortable sending a handyman or contractor there or going there myself. So I don't want a war zone property. Class A is super high-end, gated communities, doorman, really expensive. I don't want to own that because the more people pay for stuff, the more picky they are. And in economic struggles, when there is a recession, a crash, a stock market, anything, people can move from an A or a B to a C to save money. They won't move to a D. They're not going to go to a war zone. They can move in to move money, which means during an economic downtimes, there's more demand for a Class C. Class B is your generally more single family or townhome than small multifamily. And it's generally higher end appliances, right? $3,000 refrigerator instead of the $700 Lowe's refrigerator that I put in almost all my rentals. It's just higher end stuff. I think it's where Matt targets. He tries to find the Class C property that he makes a Class B property. So he upgrades everything really nice. In my market, that doesn't work. In his, it has a huge impact. You can do platinum plated everything in my market. You will get area average rents or less. It doesn't matter. There are markets where higher end stuff gets higher end renters. So that's why I specifically target C. It's more stable. And then here's the main reason why I identify with Class C properties. I've been a Marine, a cop, and a truck driver. You lose your job, you go drive for somebody else. You go teach at a CDL school. You go and find an equivalent job fairly easy, right? And you're making 20 to 25, maybe $30 an hour. There's a lot of $20 to $30 an hour jobs out there. You can go right now to Insulation Northwest and apply to be an insulation installer. They will train you on site, $30 an hour. Do it all day long. Do you want to? That's your just choice, right? So a Class C property with my cops, my teachers, my what are they? Okay, state workers. What do I have? Retired. What's up, Section 8? Military. They lose their job. Unemployment will pay their rent. And then they find another job that makes the same or more. Class A or high-end Class B, you lose $150,000 a year coding job. It might be 6 months or a year before you find another, or you have to go, okay, what else am I going to do that makes significantly less money, but it lets me put food on the table? And that's why I got to move out of that Class A. It's much easier. I have had tenants in a Class C property lose their job. Some of them worked for me and lost their job, make their rent. That doesn't tend to happen with the A's. Hope that helped. Question. I really appreciate you putting question in the front of them. That's great. And when you say to invest in an area you would like to live in, I don't say that. How close to parks with drug users and or do you judge by walking the neighborhood at night unarmed? First, I don't go to the restroom unarmed in my own house. So there's nowhere out there that I'm going unarmed. Squirrel. Ran off of the Emperor's New Groove. When you say to invest in an area you would like to live in, I don't. I invested in one place that I wanted to live because I was retiring to it. So this was not a purchase for cash flow. It satisfied a couple of things. One, I live for free. So there's an element of cash flow, I guess, because it's a small multifamily duplex. But two, I wanted a duplex in retirement because I want to spend 5 or 6 months in Thailand. I'm going to be leaving here in November, I think. I'll be going to Vegas in February. So I'll be back in the States for that. But there's somebody living on my property. If there's a freeze, a leak, an Amazon package delivered here on mistake or something, they can take care of that. So that was like the reasons for buying in this neighborhood. The rest of mine, I don't own any properties that I want to live in. This is not even it's not even on my list. Do I invest in places where the cops can go alone? Yes, I don't want the war zone. So that's a good way to put it. Distance from parks with drug users. I own a duplex in Parkland, Washington, and a fourplex in Spanaway, Washington. So apparently 4 feet. That's how far I will be from drug users with properties that I buy. Yeah. So I don't invest where I'd like to live. I invest where the math makes sense and it hits my criteria, right? Those areas that I mentioned, they're close to a port, a base, major hospital, several colleges. One section has a bigger population, right? I own in high population areas. I also own a duplex in McKenna, Washington that has less than 500 people as a populace. That's a tiny little town, but it has the other metrics in there. So I hope I clarified the answer to the question. That's a great question. PE turned RE. Anyone know a lender that recasts FHA loans? That is a good question. I don't know about FHA. I don't know if you've used my lender. Reach out and I will connect you with Spencer. He is my go-to for lending right now. Good question. But hang on. Let's think this through. Recasting a loan is done with your lender. So if your lender doesn't recast FHA loans, it's not an option. You would be refinancing with a different lender. Dan. I listened to Lumberjack Landlord talk about the entitled attitude problem with Section 8 tenants. How have you avoided those problems and found grateful tenants? So, Matt's major problem, and have I talked with him about this? Because I don't want to say anything over behind someone's back. My opinion of Matt's problem. He's said this in videos. He really didn't do Section 8. It was actually something he learned from me and Zuber, that it's a part of our diversification strategy. So for the last couple of years, he's tried to add a portion of his properties in Section 8, and he made a monumental mistake. So Matt, if you're watching, I'll tell you this to your face, and you would agree. He took tenants from the ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, that is not Section 8. They tend to be Section 8 after the emergency. So he brought in a bunch of tenants from the ERAP program. That's a problem tenant, right? This is an emergency, and they get free money. He went through, I think, all but one, maybe all but one of those tenants were evicted. So full evictions on all of them. Of course, he's going to hate it. And then Section 8 is kind of area based too. And a lot of people think I'm going to have a Section 8 rental. So anybody that goes in there's going to be Section 8. I have a unit open and I want Section 8. I'll call the housing authority and I'll say, here's the listing. Can you share it with your clients to let them know that it's going to be available on Wednesday when it opens, however that works? I'm more likely to have a Section 8 tenant apply. Okay, Matt said I could say it. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I screen Section 8 just like anyone else, right? So I generally want a 7. Ooh, man, I could stop. I generally want a 700 credit score with my tenants. I'll go down to 650 if there's a good story. You just got divorced, you can prove it. You just had a death in the family, you can prove it. Whatever's going on like that, I'll background story, because it's credit history, not just credit score. I'll go less than 650 with a cosigner that has a good credit score, right? So you're human here. You make decisions. This is a negotiation and a conversation. Don't discriminate. Do this legally. Have it standard across the board. This is how you handle it for everybody. Doing that, I've got Section 8 tenants with really high credit scores. They do great. Some people will say things like Millennial Mike does this. He says, in Gary, Indiana, if you have a high credit score, you just buy a house. I wouldn't rent to Section 8 there. I would have the person with the credit score or the criteria that you use across the board that gets you the good tenants in my area. That's how I would do it. In where Mike is investing, it makes sense because there's a lot more Section 8 tenants there. So it's more normal. That's how I've avoided it with my Section 8 tenants. I'm trying to think. I inherited a couple of Section 8 tenants. Even that wasn't a problem. It's a relationship, right? One of the benefits to the binder strategy is you have happy tenants. And I binder strategy my Section 8 tenants too, right? And I just sent this as a post to somebody. They have a YouTube channel. Suleika and Jeff. What is their YouTube channel name? I wanted to remember it. But Jeff was asking a question with Section 8, and I said, well, here's the order of operations for a rent increase with Section 8. First, you binder the person, not the housing authority, because you have a lease with the person, you have a contract with the housing authority. You go to the person, the Section 8 tenant, and you show them the binder. You can do this through email. Here's what Section 8 will pay as of this year. Then you show, here's the comps in the area. This is how much, all of the rentals with this number of bedrooms will rent for. That's why your rent's going to this amount. You sign the lease with the tenant. In there's a little caveat at the bottom that says this lease is pending approval by the housing authority. That's in the lease. Then you take that information to the housing authority. You send them the lease. You say, I've already made the arrangements with the tenant. Here's the new amount. Here's what your website says you're allowed to pay. Sometimes you can use the clip of the 10% variance. If there's a shortage of units, they can go above that. And here's several comps in the area that have the same number of bedrooms. They don't care about pool, garage, or anything like that. Just how many bedrooms does it have? Has to be at or above the rent increase that you're doing, which is the same or less than what fair market rents will be. And you can find that by Googling fair market rents, looking up your state and county, or maybe zip code to see what your rents are there. Send that to the housing authority. I had an email, this is a few years ago, where the Section 8 sent me an email saying 1,800 is the most we'll pay for that. And I was like, great. Went to the tenant, did the binder strategy, got them to 2,200, showed them comps at 23, 24, showed the housing authority would pay 2,280 something. I don't remember exactly at the time. Sent that all to the housing authority and they said, okay, cool. 2,200 is fine. right? From email of that's as much as we'll go to. I did the work for you. You could take this information and show your boss. Here's the comps. Here's your fair market rents. The tenant's already agreed to it. It went through. Now the tenant's at $3,000 because Section 8 changes every year. Pay attention to what's happening there. And grateful tenants. Duplex Dave, $637,000 in rent, but spent $250,000 in maintenance, general and CapEx repairs since 2020, renovations, roof, HVACs. If you're an out-of-state investor that likes fixer-uppers, the struggle is real, but worth it. Yes, the numbers get big and the costs get big, but so does the income. REI Jared, how does a dual agent sleep? Well, first they lie on one side and then they lies on the other. And then lies on the other. Oh, there you go. Exactly. How does a real estate investor sleep when somebody comes on YouTube and says really negative things in their comments? On my lumpy mattress full of cash. There you go. Dan, question. Can you describe your typical rental furnishings? Formica, granite, counters, tile, carpet, fixture types, dishwasher, fridge, water heater, etc. The best way to know exactly how, if you're going to do like a rehab on your tenant, on your rentals, is to take the lumberjack landlord's course, maybe one of the monkey wrenches. You can put that in the chat. Another ad to stop. He's the pro. Right? He's got over 100 units. He manages the crews and doing the work for places. I follow his content to go, hey, what electric stuff do I put in here? He had me do my last, because my first rehab, right? So I'm not the pro at this, definitely outside of my lane. But my most recent and only Burr that I'll ever do, butcher block countertops, right? You buy them at Lowe's or Home Depot, you get the distance that you need. You're probably going to spend less than $1,000 maybe on that, if depending on how much counter space you have. Food grade polyurethane, you could maybe do some maybe it's called lacquer. There's something else. I just did the food grade polyurethane. Super happy with it. It looks great. He's got, if you're in his course, access to a cabinet company that you can do that. If not, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and just buy cabinets. I do Square Electric, Eaton, usually from Lowe's. I like Square Electric. It looks more modern. Go with white. I don't do with any of the other stuff. The other stuff all looks old, any of the other colors, so just white. I like Square because you just buy faceplates, and unless you have double ones, then it's the same, right? If you're going to have a paddle switch, a GFCI, a 2 plug-in, if it's Square, you just need the same faceplates. Switch those out. That's pretty good. What else? I provide from a Lowe's or Home Depot, generally almost always Lowe's, a $700 or $800 refrigerator. I don't provide microwaves. I provide dishwashers. Hunt for good deals in your area. Usually find them at Lowe's or Home Depot, usually 400 or less. So I don't get super fancy on those. I don't care about the name brand. I'm getting it from the store that has the 1-year warranty. Lumberjack Landlord would rattle off item numbers and all that stuff. Here's something about me. I don't know if I've shared this in a video. I might have once. I get out of the Marine Corps, was a tow gunner, right? So familiar with the M16, that's how old I am. And I can break down the tow system for portable or Humvee, right? Very skilled at that. I could do tank silhouette stuff. I trained on my thing that I was in. When I get out, I become a truck driver. A couple other jobs too, but I become a truck driver. I could drive anything. Any gear pattern, anything. I started with a 5-and-4 logging truck. So it's two shifters, often reaching through the steering wheel to hit one of those levers. Could drive everything. I could open the hood and look at the plaque on the engine and couldn't tell you what engine it was. I couldn't tell you how many cylinders it has. I couldn't tell you when it was. I couldn't tell you anything about the transmission. I could drive it. I'm not a details guy when it comes to that. When it comes to the rehabs of the rentals, since specifically in my market, higher end stuff doesn't get you higher end rents. I'm not the guy to go, what brand do you use? Matt is, right? I would call him. I have called him. Hey, I'm doing this. What would you buy? And get the specific product number from him. So he does his lives currently Thursday evenings, 6 p.m. Pacific. And Dan, that you definitely want to ask him those kind of questions. The thing that I like is I've been successful and reached financial freedom without knowing any of that. I could have done better. It could have been easier, but it's possible without knowing that. And I usually do that when I have my brother David on my videos with me. I will ask him some question like about politics or something that obviously he doesn't know because it's not his thing. and then go, and he has 10 paid off rentals, been retired for 10 years, travels all over the world, and scuba dives in every country it feels like. Like you don't need to know certain things to do this. It can be simple. I do appreciate the question though, because so wealth building journey, I do appreciate it if they start with a question because it tells me this is a question. I don't see all of them and I miss them. Like Spay, thanks for the answer. You seem unique in preferring existing tenants, so I wanted to get your own. It's because of the binder strategy. It's actually what got me invited on BiggerPockets. I've been on, I think, all of their current shows now, and I've referenced the binder strategy in each one. I have happy tenants. I've binder strategy tenants that I move in to. Actually got binder strategy by my tenant the other day. They got bindered in the end of 2022, and they called me and they said, "Hey, our lease is coming up. Last year rent stayed the same. We really appreciate that, but we did a rent study this because they know the binder. They might even watch my content." And she goes, "Are you comfortable with our rent going up $250?" And I have agreed. So we have a new existing lease. If I am a tenant, call me, binder strategy me. Uh, yeah, I do appreciate existing. I do a few things backwards. So you have to know your local market. Like Matt, the lumberjack landlord, is in Boston, which can be very cold in the winter. So he prefers his leases to end in summer. It's much easier to find a tenant. I'm in Washington. The winters suck, but you don't die if you get locked out of your house, right? I didn't imply that that happens in Boston, but you can infer it. I prefer my leases to end in the winter, right? Matt wants him in the summer because it's really hard to find a tenant because nobody wants to move. In his market, that makes sense because they just don't move in the winter, right? It's a very, very, very limited likelihood. In my market, they don't want to move in the winter, but you can. I want my leases to end in the middle of winter because people don't want to move. So I have very low tenant turnover. So there are some things I kind of do backwards. Doesn't mean I'm right. It means my strategy in my market, this is what works for me. What market are you in? Would it work for you? It's possible. The other strategy is just as solid and has just as many justifiable reasons, probably even more in his case. It's like somebody was going through Boston and their wagon broke and they said, let's make a town. It must have been summer. And then my chat moved. Esther, welcome to Someday. Howdy. I hope to see you in the members thing. It's happening tonight at 6 o'clock in 43 minutes, if that's how math works. And we're going to look at deals. Real estate axe throwing in Vegas. I think that sounds like a good time at midnight. Let's find a place that does it at midnight. My chat moved. I'm trying to find the place where I was at so I don't miss any. There we go. Thanks for the answer. Well, Dion, I'm trying to house hack a single family living in the basement ADU that has its own kitchen, laundry, etc., but utilities not separate. How do you post on Zillow if I can't pick duplex as a type? Zillow doesn't have an option for duplex. I have the same problem you do. They don't have triplex, they don't have fourplex, they don't have small multifamily. So I list it in most cases as a single family, and then I just type the first word, duplex. Maybe you can list it, ad, I can stop it. Maybe you can list it as townhome, but in the description, write duplex. Be clear in like the first thing that pops up because you don't want somebody wasting their time trying to find it and then realizing, oh, this is a duplex when they weren't looking for one. Just be clear, this is the first thing in the ad. So that's what I do. I think it's a great strategy. In the description, you can put as much information as you want. And then in your interactions with people, you can actually share, hey, this is the situation. It's a house. It's got two living sections. They're not connected, or there's a sealed off wall between it or something. But I would just check the category that gets the most eyes on it and then be transparent in your description. But yeah, it's weird. They don't have a duplex option. It's stupid. Oculus. On a recent live, a user asked if you'd do a video comparing cash flow with the binder increase requesting to cash flow with what you think you would have asked for if you were raising rents with no binder. I should do that. So this tenant knows the binder strategy. They need to look up what rents were. They need to call me and say $250 is an increase. If you weren't using the binder, what have I said in almost every video? 5% every other year. So 1,900, 5%. Math people. It's $90, I think. $90-ish. That would have been a 5% increase. And that's a 250 is a small binder. Usually it's 3 to 500. Michelle just had a 300. The person on BiggerPockets that's going to have an episode coming out soon had a 36%. I don't know the math on that yet, but it's probably more than 250. But here's the bigger impact. Oh, I should do that video because it's not that the math would be different, right? Michelle buys a duplex, owns it for a few months, goes in. Let's say she just raised the rent to $100. That tenant might have left. That tenant might have flamed her on social media. That tenant would have negative interactions with her going forward because you're the jerk landlord that bought the property and raised the rent to $100. Michelle bought the property, waited a couple of months, went in and goes, here's rents in the area. Here's what Section 8 will pay. I think I sent her the binder with BAH in it too. I'm not sure if I included that. And she goes, what do you think is fair? The tenant sends back, how about $300? I mean, there's some that are more, but this place, it's kind of compares with these other ones. And the tenant actually compared it with 2-bedroom units, and it was a 3-bedroom unit. And Michelle said, $300 is fine. The tenant suggested an amount. The tenant is happy. She got 3 times the increase that would have made her a jerk. It's not only about the math. It's not only about the money. Happy tenants don't trash your property, and happy tenants don't leave. So yeah, I should probably do that video. I don't know that very many people would watch it because there's a few things to think about with YouTube. What am I trying to do? Help the most people make work optional. And this is the softest thing that a Marine will ever say. Because imagine how much better the world is if people had jobs they liked instead of jobs they had to have for the money. So I'm trying to help people do that. I want to help everybody that's here, right? And so I make content, and when you ask questions, these lives are for you. Like, nobody's finding you. Is there anybody here tonight who saw this pop up on their feed? And it's like, this live's been going on for 1 hour and 22 minutes. I should see what this is about. That's not how this works. Usually people watch a couple of the short videos or see me on BiggerPockets and they think, wow, this guy does a live every week where he answers questions for a couple of hours. And you're here to do this, talk to each other in the comments, learn from each other. I appreciate each one of those comments. There are people here who know more than me, that have better strategies than me, that can contribute to this. Sometimes there are people that tell me when I'm wrong because I can be wrong. Ask my exes. I'm wrong all the time, except for when I escape. That was right. Oh man, the negative thoughts come in. Remember, that's what this whole video is about. If you're watching this in future land or only hearing it on podcast, I didn't stop and take a drink just now. I fought off a bear. That's why it was quiet for a minute. I should make that video, Oculus. You're totally right. Matt Bob, this opening. Jim Rohn is applauding from the grave. I can hear it. Nice. Good. Thank you. Jim, howdy. Oh, good idea. 1 month gym membership. Thank you. Dan, question. Dion, do you have a secret way to find duplex triplexes in an area in which all doors are for sale, not just one half other investors? So this must be a market specific thing. I know Millennial Mike owns a half a duplex, I think in Chicago, right? So he owns half. That's not really a thing in Washington. I've never seen half a duplex for sale on the MLS. It's always all my properties are. I own the house, I own the duplex, I own the triplex, I own the fourplex, I own the other duplexes. So it must be local specific to you. I would ask your agent how they're setting up the search. And this is one of the reasons why I always have 3 agents with auto searches set up. It's a little harder now with the NAR lawsuit. A lot of them want an exclusivity agreement to even set up a auto search. So you might have to hunt around to find the people to do that. But I would take a cookie cutter email. Here's what I'm looking for. This is my footprint. These are the counties or the areas that I invest in. I want this amount was my limit in the beginning. This is I don't want short sales, foreclosures, or in an HOA. I do want these things. Right? I've given this same email. It's copied in my thing. I don't type it out every time. I copy and paste and send it to them with my auto search. They send me completely different deals. And I have agents like Beth Traverso go, I don't understand how that's possible. We search the same. No, each brokerage has different access, different portal access to the MLS. So I have a Keller Williams person, an EXP person, a Mosaic person, Windermere person, right? Different search engines on the MLS to send me my listings. Then you find the agent that's sending you the best deals that are more likely to be the ones you're looking for. Zap Spiders. What things would you recommend doing daily to find a deal? At the moment, I look at all the MLS emails and do the numbers. After that, is there anything else you recommend daily? So all of my deals are from the MLS, and I'm comfortable with buying one deal every year or every other year. So I wasn't in super massive buy 10 rentals in a year growth mode. So if you need a bigger funnel, there is driving for dollars, right? Actually, check your neighborhoods, drive around. There is mailers. There's several strategies for that. There are so there's the MLS, there's other ways. So you could be checking Zillow, Redfin. Some areas they're fairly accurate, not in my area, right? To increase the possible leads for those deals. So how many deals are you trying to do in a year? And for me, it's all been MLS, every single deal from the MLS. But I do like that you look every day. One of the mistakes people make is they'll say, okay, I want to be in real estate. I'm busy during the week. So on Saturday, I'm going to spend 5 hours doing this. And you probably have a productive hour on Saturday and then 4 hours of effing off. 20 to 30 minutes a day. And don't fall for the hype and think, well, everybody lists the best deals on Thursday. No, I found deals on Monday and Friday and whatever. And if you only look on Saturday, you're missing some deals that came out on Tuesday and were under contract on Thursday. So that's what I would recommend, but multiple agents. And even if you are an agent with access to the MLS, have multiple agents with auto searches set up because each brokerage has a different way of accessing the MLS and you're going to see different deals. The wealth building journey. Why do you start every question with a question, Chester? Because I've asked him to. I've asked other people to in the comments too, because it helps. Because it's very hard to do this, to focus, give an articulate answer, to read, to keep up so that questions don't get too far away from me. And so there's like a lot of these that I'll stream through. Dennis says it might help when Deanna's scanning the chat is very true. Okay, Chester, in a week or two, you want to be on a live with me? I'll have you in the Zoom meeting. You have to follow the chat and you have to find the questions we're going to answer. And people can hear your opinion because I would like you to be on here. And I'm not being sarcastic. I'm offering. My first Burr, I took out too much cash. Cash flow, Johnny Ramirez. Yes, that there's, I think Zuber did the same thing too, created an alligator out of that first Norris Drive property. Took out too much. I don't know that I'm going to take any cash out of this Burr. I might sell it. I might live here for 2 years and then sell it and use the IRS 121 rule and redeploy the funds. I don't know. Life is better when you have options. And what is the assumed positive impact? Something good will come out of this. Dennis, not sure why it's a big deal. Just seemed like question was easier to see than a big. Nope, I love it. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys got along down in the chat. Oculus, Mrs. K, I bid on several tax liens years ago. Super deep pocket guys bid out everyone looking for a deal in my market. There you go. Esther, sorry for the delay. Join the members just now. Nice. I look forward to seeing you there tonight. Character space is limited. Class F properties is prison, which is the ultimate house hack, but not my chosen form of retirement. Lumberjack Lander, the children have been told, stop interrupting my Dion streams. There you go. Question. Thank you, Dan. Do you have a standard that you improve all your rentals up to? AC, insulation, windows, draft, dryers, AC vents, cleanouts, dual pane windows, etc. Dual pane windows, yes, I'm in the Pacific Northwest. AC, no. I irritated a guy. I went to a speaking event and there was a guy speaking before me who is an HVAC technician giving advice on HVAC stuff. I hate, it's a strong word, but I hate it. HVAC. Right. 2 properties that I own have HVAC. Don't want them. So when I do a Burr here, I put in cadet heaters. I'll put in baseboard or cadet heaters before I'll do a mini split, before I'll do HVAC, whatever your local code is, know your local laws. Of course, that's a thing too. So I don't do that. I don't provide washers and dryers. I do vent cleaning because, killing everybody in a fire is not good. Don't do that. I upgrade all of the electric to the square version, which I always look over because I did these ones here. Let's see, standard upgrade. If The bathroom is okay, I'll re-caulk and maybe do porcelain treatment. If the bathtub needs any work at all, I rip it out and put in a shower. This is a legal form of discrimination, right? You can't not rent to somebody because they have kids, but you can make your property less attractive to people with kids because people with kids tend to like bathtubs. So since I don't rip out bathtubs and put in showers just because, but anytime that there is some work that's going to involve removing a bathtub, tear it out, put in a shower, less likely to get families with kids. I would rather 19 Rottweilers in my rentals than one toddler. Have you met the demons out there? I had 3 of them. All the damage at the house was caused by them. I think in a decade, I've spent maybe $100 on pet damage. And it had chewed a door jamb up. Super easy to fix. $100. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on kid damage. Michelle, that Spencer's awesome. Yeah, he does really good for me. I'm really happy with him. Deconstructing Dreams, a financial journey. Howdy. Just getting off work. Time to make Dion sound like a chipmunk. Dual speed. There you go. I've been told by people I talk too slow, so that they put me on dual speed so that I sound normal. I actually talk slow because I'm raising my voice so that I sound normal. Because when I talk myself, people say, why is your voice so deep? Why do you sound like that? So I have to talk really like this, slow down, raise my voice so that I don't know. It's been very irritating. Try being a manager with a voice that everybody says you intimidate me. And everyone knows I'm just a big nerd. Dennis gifted a financial freedom membership to Yuri Pono. I probably said Yuri wrong. But welcome to the membership group. I hope to see you there tonight at 6 o'clock if you can make it. If not, we'll do another one another day. But members only is to go over a deal. We literally take, I estimate about 90 seconds is how long it takes to look at a deal to determine, is this worth taking a deeper look in, or do I just delete this? That 90 seconds, the stream of consciousness of everything that was decided in those 90 seconds, takes somewhere between 30 minutes and 45 minutes to have the conversation of everything that was thought in those 90 seconds. And that's what happens in the members only. But if you opened up YouTube and you saw an ugly bald guy that dyes his beard on YouTube reading his emails, you'd just leave, right? You'd kill the channel. But if you join the members going, okay, we're going to open an email, we're going to see what does that look like? What does an auto search from an agent look like? How do I pick through the ones I want to look at? When I look at them, what am I actually checking for? That's what that's for. Jack Stewart. Half a duplex is lesser quality than a townhouse. Interesting. I love it. Yeah, that's an odd one. Yeah, and I think it's like a colloquialism. It's something that's in that region makes sense to people. It just, and there might even be places in Washington where it's a thing, but it's not in the counties where I invest. I believe we have got through all of the questions, unless I missed a bunch. I did. We go back to where did I miss it? Zap Spiders join someday. Did you talk about my text to you regarding the escrow? It did not, so I will. Yeah, wow, I missed a bunch of comments. I'm very sorry. If I ever do that, put them back in. Matt said talked about the children. Question there, Michelle. Dreams sound like a chipmunk. Great explanation, Dan. Thank you. Homes and hustles, I think. A PTO for life. There you go. That's Jeff and Sulega. They have a very. They are speaking at the One Rental at a Time event next year in February. Thank you. And I can't believe I can't remember the name of their YouTube channel. Have I told you about my memory? John, howdy CJ, but John, do you know how frequently Section 8 updates rents? I do. So there's a metric that they use is they look at 7 years of data. What are happening with rents? They take out the most recent 2. So these 5 years give Section 8 the fair market rents average that they're going to be looking for. They are required by October 1st to come out with what the fair market rents are going to be as of January 1st. So what happens is, let's say in my area, Section 8 takes the rent from, I think it was 23 something to 31 something for how many bedrooms I have, right? That doesn't mean January 1st, all of the rents are going to go up $800 because most landlords aren't like me. They want their leases to end in the summer because they've heard every landlord say, well, it's easier to find a tenant in the summer. So they do that, right? So most Section 8 tenants have rents. Most tenants have rents from this summer to next summer. So right now, as we're wrapping up summer, rents are being pushed up by what happened to Section 8 rents January of 2024. Because now people are renewing. Why would you rent to somebody when the government would pay you $800 more than they were a year ago? So that's how Section 8 works. They take those 7 years. They have to have it out by October 1st for January 1st. And January, if you have your leases in like I do, then you can do your Section 8 adjustments then. But most non-Section 8 and Section 8 rents are pushed up towards the end of summer if there's been a big increase to what fair market rents are, like there was in many counties this last year. Latimer, thank you for all your videos, time, and advice. When is your next members only? Tonight at 6 o'clock. That's the deal review. And so I hope to see you there. That'll be amazing. Lunch. What's up, everyone? Okay, there you go, lunch. And you're probably off lunch already. I will make a standalone video for Martin Properties on what happens with escrow after you close on a property because it shocks a lot of people. Cameron, howdy. That's my son's name. I bought house before I was introduced to investing. Me too. I'm currently renting 2 rooms out, but the house won't cash flow. What should my next step be for future house hack? So I was in a similar situation. I moved from my house into an apartment and rented the house out for 2 years. First year I lost money. Rent by the room, you might make more money and you might not lose as much. After I had 2 years of rental income from the house, it made it a lot easier to buy a duplex because now they would consider the other income on my debt to income ratio. Time, I would do an internal rate of review study on your house on what are your options? What happens if you sell it? Do you lose money? Has there been appreciation? Since you live there, you have the 121 IRS rule where if you're single, you can have up to $250,000 in capital gains, pay 0 taxes. If you're married, you could have $500,000 in returns and pay no taxes. And I think the IRS 121 rule might be increasing those amounts. So I would do some research on that. If you sell it, could you redeploy the funds with an owner-occupied house hack? Look for a house with ADU, duplex, triplex, fourplex, something that will cash flow. Is it possible to do the rent by the room, keep the house? Or if you're underwater, what's better? To lose money on rent for several months, not knowing what's going to happen with prices or interest rates, or to sell it and take a loss. Like you've got to do, like spreadsheet it out and go, worst case scenario, here's my least worst of the worst things that can happen. Maybe you have a better solution. There are things you can do to try to increase the cash flow. Call your insurance company and raise your deductible. I go with at least $10,000. I try for 20. Some people do a bigger percentage. The bigger your deductible is, the lower your premium will be. You can look at those different strategies that rent by the room to increase it. I mean, there's ways to make money without raising the rents. The rooms that you have rented out, how do their rents compare to area average rents? There's several things there, but it's really hard to go, which option do you go with? Because if they're all bad, you pick the least bad. And if they're all good, it's really hard to choose if they're all good. It's actually harder to choose that way. So that's what I would do. I would definitely, though, the way you end it is a future house hack. I would know that, and I get this a lot. People say, there's no way you can do this now. You can't start in 2024 and reach financial freedom. And they're right. You can't start in 2024 and reach financial freedom in 2024. Right? There are people who started in 2022 that are in the 2032 graduating class. There are people starting today that are in the 2034 graduating class. Right now, you're saving for a couple of years to maybe get that first rental in 2026. And then you're stabilizing and getting that to cash flow and buying the next one in 2028. And then by 2030, now the cash flow, the rent from the one you've had for 6 years starts to be more because you've had possible refinances to better rates, possible rent increases. Maybe you added a closet to a den and made a bedroom. There's all these options that can pop up. that by then you now start to buy one every year, right? So it sucks that it starts slow those first few years, which is now for a lot of people, is going to be really slow. You have to add the element of time. But considering looking at the properties to think of what is the next possible house hack is probably the strongest thing you can do. Howdy, Basilio. Michelle Dion did send me all the screenshots. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Victor, howdy. Hey, Dion, you say that we can buy $1 million house with 5%, only 50,000 down, but we don't have to make a lot of money to qualify for a loan that big. You do. First, I wouldn't want to buy $1 million house. When I talk about the 5% down, we're talking about duplex, triplex, or fourplex. So if you're buying $1 million fourplex, what is the rents on the other 3 units? That's what's changed right now. Is there was for a long time this thing called the self-sustainability rule, where the rents had to equal, and it's often 1.1%. So if you have, let's say your mortgage round numbers was $1,000, the rents have to be $1,100. You have to be 1.1 more. They've taken that off with this new Fannie Freddie backed 5% down. Just because you can qualify doesn't mean you should, right? Are you in a position with reserves to actually manage a fourplex or a duplex, right? And in your market, does $1 million place make sense, right? Will it cash flow? Will it, are you making enough to set aside money for future repairs, maintenance, and vacancy? Are there physical assets? The whole thing you look through at a property starts with math, but it goes through everything else. Just because 5% down is an option doesn't mean you use it. Like, there is a long list of reasons why I have not used my VA loan. One of them is I don't want to be 100% levered. I like putting money down. I put 5% down on a duplex to get started on that first house hack. I put 20 or 25% down since then. And my last one, I purchased cash. Right? I don't recommend starting that way, but after the income snowball, after reaching financial freedom and not wanting to grow a portfolio bigger, but having money to deploy, I purchased a place. Martin Properties, and some of us have been watching for years and are addicted to pirate talk. There you go, pirate mug talk. Let's have a live with each. There you go, exactly. Andy, question, thank you. Was impacted by large layoffs, can last for a while on savings. Would you suggest focusing on job hunting before placing tenant and house hack, or focus on tenant first, or both? I would be looking at both if you have the property already. What I wouldn't be doing is getting laid off looking for properties, right? Stabilize your income, making yourself more likely to be bankable. But if you have a property, I would be getting a tenant in there. There is, if it's nuanced, let's say you have $10,000 in repairs to do. Do you have it? If you spend the 10 grand, do you have the reserves that you need, right? So you have to look at your overall picture. Me personally, I would try to focus on both. At that point, you might be doing some of the work yourself, right? How, hunting for a job 2 to 3 hours a day, working on your rental 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't make a job out of that. It's not Monday through Friday. This is that we talk often about real estate being passive, owning it. Right now I'm at 18 rental units. Takes me about 2 hours a month to self-manage. Yeah, that's pretty passive. Buying them was life consuming, right? 30 minutes to an hour every day to look at deals, to actually make deal offers, to learn the binder strategy, to figure out how to get leases, to all of the things it takes to buy and acquire and understand real estate in the beginning. Those first 5 years that we say suck also sucks because it takes so much time. It does. People are right when they say real estate's not passive. To acquire it. Once your systems are in place and you have a tenant, no kidding, texted me the other day, kitchen sink's clogged. This is the reason why people don't want to be a landlord, because you can get a plumbing call. So I have to send a text to my plumbing handyman. This is a terrible nightmare. I will lose sleep forever. Probably have hair fall. Whatever happens. I look at the text string. Last time we texted, November 2022. That's a great test. That's my kind of puzzle that I want to solve right there. That's the tenant I like. Owning it, passive. Acquiring it, not. And then on the job search, how much time do you spend every day hunting for jobs, and what resources are you using to do that? I actually have a video on my channel. So search this and watch. It's a 45-minute video. Why your resume is not working, Dion Talk. Search that. I ran the CDL school and I came up with a theory. I came up with a binder strategy for real estate, but for what the CDL school, one of the reasons why it grew, there was a few ideas that I had. One was founding a nonprofit that did job placement assistance. That's how I got good at this. We worked with 1,200 employers, and I got a lot of feedback on what didn't work on resumes. We made a huge mistake. Every resume I've ever seen, every resume class I've ever seen makes the same mistake. They ask employers what they want to see on a resume. How many girls out there go to a guy and ask a guy for dating advice? How many guys go to girls and ask a girl for dating advice? How many girls is that girl dating? How many guys is that guy dating? An employer will tell you they have a stack of resumes and they're trying to get it down to the few people they're going to call for an interview. The main thing they want on their resume that the classes teach you to do, and why I'm taking a second to maybe help you find a job, go watch that resume class. It's because we made the same mistake. We asked employers what they wanted, and we struggled to place students until I asked the right question on accident. Complete mistake, asked the right question, found out something about resumes, completely changed it, and our job placement went from 70 to 80% to about 98%. It was almost flawless. Driving, non-driving, HR, IT, didn't matter how they were using our nonprofit. It was just because of what we found out. Instead of asking employers what they want on a resume, we asked them, can I see the resumes of the people you hired? And not one of them were chronological. Not one of them had their address. Not one of them had their skills and their hard skills and their soft skills. Every single one of them that got hired, that got the position or the promotion, did something different that's in that video. So hopefully that helps you find a job. Go watch that video. Why your resume is not working, Dion Talk. Cash flow over is freeing. Hey, Dion, loved your interview with Mindy Jensen on the Money Podcast. Thank you. So much fun to talk to her. It was great because she has done the live-in flip using the IRS 121 rule. So she's lived in a property, flipped it, done it. But she's not really a real estate investor, doesn't have a bunch of rentals, right? So it's fun to talk to her because I can say things and I can watch. Like one of the things I really enjoy about doing videos with Zuber is I'll bring in a new concept that is something he's probably already doing, but he's never looked at it from that lens before. And I can watch his face break. He's like, oh, that totally makes sense. That's why you would do that. That video has like 3 or 4 times when Mindy did that. That was fun. JR. Bought a property and the tenant is paying $1,000 a month. I have to increase rent to $2,100, which is the current market rent. I plan to use the binder strategy and tips for this big of an increase. Yes. To get $2,100 rent, if that's the area average, here's the struggle that some people have with the binder strategy. To get $2,100, if that is area average, you have to kick the tenant out. And you have to spend somewhere between $5,000 and $15,000 doing new flooring, paint, trim, all the electrical, new light fixtures, just getting it sparkling, shiny new, and then rent it for area average rents. That's how you get $2,100. The purpose of the binder is they're at, and I've had numbers very close to this, like 900. Who messaged me that they went from 900 to, God, it was something like 16 or something. It was on a private call where somebody booked an hour with me, so I can't share the exact numbers, but it almost doubled the rent. Tenant asked for the rent to double. Good experience. That tenant is not going to do the binder strategy and say, oh, area average rent is 21, we're at 1,000, let's just raise my rent to 21. And if there's any kind of rent control in your state, you're not going to do that anyway. But if you do the binder strategy, the tenant is probably going to go, you show them comps at 21, you show them what Section 8 is paying for your area, you show them what you paid for your property, all of those things. The tenant's probably going to, so they go to half and then split the difference. So if they're at 1,000 and rent's 2,100, they're going to go to like 15, and then they're going to split the difference. So they're probably going to suggest 1,750. So the math you need to do is, I currently have $1,000 coming in. If I have a 10-minute conversation, it'll go to 1,750. That's my minimum. If they offer 17, I'm sorry, I'm not going to renew the lease. But if they go to 1,750, which is probably what they're going to do, as long as you have area average rents that you can back up and verify with 21 and 22s in the area for rent, you have to decide, would you do it for that? Or if it's not worth it, did you buy a place that has to be at 21? Then you're going to have to kick the tenant out and have to do a rehab. Is the 1,750 profitable enough for you not to have to do a rehab, not to have to spend between $5,000 and $15,000 to not have area average rents, but then do the binder again in like 2 years and see where you get it and see what happens with rents? That's the thing with the binder strategy is it doesn't get you to area average rents. It gets you slightly below area average rents. And sometimes in this case, it's a massive jump. $750 is almost doubling your tenant's rent. That's a 75% increase in this case. That's huge. If you went in and you just raised the rent to $1,100, they would call you a jerk. But if you go in and have the binder strategy, the tenant is more than likely going to offer $1,750. Ask you, please raise my rent $750. Are you willing to agree to that or not? And do the binder strategy and then see. You might get surprised. They might go to 18 or 19 or something like that. They're not going to go to 2,000 or 2,100. Dion, that was a little while back. There you go. Oculus. Go to your local REIA meetup or wholesalers and ask to get on their buyers list. There you go. Financial fire. It's hard work doing that. It's confusing because the little brain hurts, especially when you have water that makes your eyes water. Cash flow string. Don't forget to hit the like button so an angel gets its wings every time you do. Mick, what treatment for your basement stairs? I have wood steps that are painted. It's now time for new paint or what? If you paint those stairs, go. Do I have any here? No. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and you probably have to go to the paint counter because I always forget what it's called. But it's sand, really fine white sand that you put in the paint. So you buy the paint, you pour the sand in, you stir it up. And this actually got a ratio that you mix in there per gallon or whatever. So that when you paint stairs, the paint is skid resistant, right? So less skid because of the sand in the paint. It gives it a gritty feel. And because of the type of sand, you don't just put dirt in your paint. You go buy the stuff. It's like 15 bucks for a little bag. And you buy that and you read it based on how many gallons you're going to use. Paint the stairs, put that on there. I like to carpet stairs, right? Nail down tack strips, cut carpet. I have a guy that does it. I'm way too lazy to do it myself, but carpet on stairs is even less slippery. But I have painted exterior stairs, and that's what like a deck. If you're going to paint a deck, stain what you can, but put the sand in the paint if you're going to do that. There's probably a technical term for it. Michael Smith, I would give you my catchphrase, but not today. It's just not the same without the sound effect. And I don't really edit videos that much anymore. That was when I was putting that in there. Does anybody remember what the very first but not today referenced? Lumberjack Landlord, PTO for life. You are absolutely right. Howdy, Chris. Good to see you. DL on the DL. Have you used any of your house hacks to midterm or short-term one side while you were there? No. I have not done midterm or short-term. I only like long-term tenants. I've considered and dismissed both long-term and or midterm and short-term because I'm an investor, not an entrepreneur. And those are entrepreneurial ventures. It takes a little bit more, even if it's just a little bit more time and energy and effort to manage that. And if you had a property manager, you're probably going to be making the same as you would as the long-term. My opinion, could be wrong. I like the tenants that I talk to and I look at the text and go, oh, the last time was November 2022. And that's when we talked last time because we had a lease renewal coming up that we binder strategies. So I have not. There is a guy, Tony Stagastanacho, on Facebook. I'm not sure if he has a YouTube channel, but that's what he does. He midterm rents out half of those. And I got a text from an amazing friend, thank you very much, that I'm cutting it close to the members only, and I did not set an alarm. Thank you. I have 6 minutes to get ready for the members only. One last question, because summertime Santa took back a message to make me lose sleep forever and ever and wonder what it was, but then putting it back in here. So hello, if I recall correctly, you said you were investing in Port Orchard. Yes. Bremerton area, and said there are parts of Bremerton, not Burlington, that you would avoid. What part? Wait, are those if you don't mind? I'd have to be looking at a map. And I don't know it well enough because I didn't really look in Bremerton to give you an honest, truthful answer. But here's what I would do if I was going to start investing there. Step 1, call a non-emergency police number and ask if you can have a police officer call you for a 5-minute conversation. You would greatly appreciate their time. Ask a police officer, where are the places that you can't go alone? Where's the places to avoid? You might not get that call. I may had that call several times at our police department. I was there 8 years, probably had that call 10 times. And it wasn't by landlords, it was by people looking to move there. Second, call property managers and go, hey, look, I'm looking at buying a rental in Bremerton. You might be the property management company that I go with. Where are the areas you would avoid? That's my two-step process to first start that. And then if I was going to learn a market like that, I would want to go drive the area, talk to other investors that do invest in that specific area. So I don't know it well enough to answer. I do know that when I go there, there's some sketch areas, and I've looked around and gone, ew, I don't think I'd want this. And it's the far north end before you hit Silverdale, where you get closer to the freeway. It's public transit is there, and you kind of, it's like the Spanaway, Washington of the peninsula. I have got to go to the members only. I hope to see you there. If not, I will see you Thursday when I talk about there is more to life than work. Because somebody made a recent comment about how they don't want to retire. What's the point of life if you're not constantly getting better? How sad is someone's life is if work, their job, is the only thing that they can get better at? I want to be a better parent, a better friend, a better neighbor, and a better lover. Especially since I'm always by myself.